All right, Unit 7, Lesson 4, Logarithmic Modeling. So today's lesson, we're going to learn how to use Desmos and some data points to model a logarithmic function and then make some predictions with it. In our last lesson, we talked about exponential, modeling with exponential growth. And here's kind of a comparison between the two. As you can kind of see, they're kind of a mirror. They flipped over each other. That is because they are inverse functions. Exponential starts growth slow and then speeds up. Logarithmic is kind of the opposite. It starts growth is really quick and then it slows down. And both of these things happen in nature and in the real world all the time. All right, so the table below shows the percent of U.S. adults with diabetes starting in 2010 and being projected to 2050. We're going to create a model using this data, a logarithmic function, and then we're going to predict these two things. Rounded to the nearest tenth, what percent of U.S. adults will have diabetes in the year 2030? So notice in my table, it gives me 2020, it gives me 2040, but there is no 2030. So in that in-between area, we'll use our function to get what it would be. And then round to the nearest year, in what year will the percent reach 25%? So notice in 2020, it's 21%, and then in 2040, it jumps up to 31%. So somewhere in between those two, I'm guessing, is going to be 25%. When you're finding these, the things you got to remember is 2030, these are years, and this is your x value, right? They're giving me my x value is 2030. I need to figure out the y value, which is the percent. Here it's the opposite, right? They don't give me the x value, the year. That's what they want me to find. Instead, they give me the y value is 25%. And I got to figure out the year, okay? All right, so first things first, though, we got to enter this data into Desmos. I kind of sped it up there, so we don't need to slowly watch me type in the information. But there is the table. I'm going to adjust it here so I can see my data. I'm looking at the x values, 2010 to 2050. So I put 2000. So I went a little smaller than my smallest x, and then 2050, I think I went to 2100, so a little above my highest. Then I went to the y values. I think we put in a 0 here, and then it goes up to 43, so I went up to 50. And then, so there's my data points. And now we're going to do logarithmic regression here. So the way we do that is y sub 1. And then like the tilde, the squiggly. And then you're going to do a plus b. Those are our two variables times. And for our log, we're going to use the natural log. You can just type in ln and then put your x sub 1. So you just type in ln and the computer knows that's the natural log. And now we're going to find when the year is 2030. So that's the x, remember. So x equals 2030. And I can click on that and figure out what the y value of that point is. So 2030 is the x, and it's round to the nearest tenth, so 27.1. 27.1% of the U.S. population will have diabetes in 2030, 27.1%. All right, so here's the y value is 25%. So y equals 25. I don't put the percent symbol because I didn't use percent symbols up here. 25%, and that would be in the year 2026. And it's round to the nearest year. Yep, so 2026 is the year when 25% of the U.S. population will have diabetes. So let's do one more regression. And again, this is how you type it into Desmos. Y sub 1 tilde. Oh, disappeared. And then you do our variables a plus b and then times the natural log of x. All right, so let's do one more example. I don't know why I chose this one. This took quite a while to plug all this into Desmos, but once I do that, so this is women that make up the workforce. What percent of the workforce are women? Back in 1940, only 24.3% of the workforce was women. And then in 2008, it's up to 44%. And notice like it was making some pretty big jumps, of course. These are decades here. But then it kind of really started to slow down and flatten off. Which is kind of a telltale sign that we're dealing with a logarithmic relationship. So what we're going to try to figure out is round to the nearest tenth, what percent of the workforce was made up of women in the year 1900? So this goes to 1940, which is 24. We're going to go this direction all the way back to 1990, and we're going to figure out what the percent was. Obviously, it'll be less than 24%. And then the next thing is, in what year will it reach 50%? So again, this one is I know the X is 1900. I got to figure out the Y value, right? And here it's giving me the percent, which is the Y value. I need to figure out the X. When will half the workforce be women? All right. So I plugged all that into Desmos. And then I adjusted my smallest. I went to 1900. And then I go up to 2008, but I'm going to have to get up to 50. So I don't know really where that is, but I'll put like 2050 maybe. And then for the Y values, it gets as small as 24 or something. So I think I'll put 0 in there. And then I get up to, I want to see at least 50 because, so I went up to 60. And there you can see our data points there. So now we're going to do our regression. So Y sub 1 tilde A plus B times the natural log of X. And remember with the X, you got to put the sub 1 as well. And once you do that, it tells you what your A and your B is to actually make the function. Those are the numbers that should go there to make your actual function. But it looks like a straight line, and that's because we're really zoomed in here. So if I zoom out, you'd be able to see that it is a logarithmic curve. It's not a straight line, even though that's kind of what it looks like right now. I think I zoomed out here. There we go, zoom out. So you can kind of see, oh yeah, there it is, it's a curve. Zoom back in. I think I zoomed out really far this time, so you can really see the logarithmic curve that it is. All right. So X equals 1900, because I want to know what percent of women, the workforce was women back in 1900, and it's 14.3%. And then for 50, sorry, I was adjusting my pen there. Wasn't paying attention. 2012, so 2013, if I round to the nearest year. 2013 is the predicted year when the workforce was 50% women. All right, so for your, I'll give you some data points, and you'll use those data points in Desmos to make a prediction function, and then you'll use that function in Desmos to make some predictions.